G'day everybody, Sam Mowat here from Cultivate Farms, and today we want to give you the backstory behind the farm pitching marketplace, where anybody now can own a farm by pitching a farm to investors, which is really exciting. To help pull this template together and get the marketplace happening online, we needed the best in the industry to help us make it happen, which is why I have here Mr. Andrew Bomm, who has pulled all this knowledge together for the template and is going to help us into the future. But I wanted Andrew here today just to unpack how we pulled it together, what's involved, and to get his perspective. But Andrew, thank you very much for coming along and helping out, mate.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate any opportunity to get in front of people. That's, readers of my newsletter will know.
It is a good newsletter. I think it's one of the best newsletters going around. Progressive Agriculture is your business, Andrew.
That's right.
So you do, apart from writing awesome newsletters about agriculture, what's your area of expertise?
Yeah, so I've been out in business for a year now. I've been doing a range of odd jobs, business related and policy and advisory related odd jobs for agricultural businesses, really, more so than farmers directly.
Yep.
So everything from helping AgriFutures Australia work out what the best opportunities might be for capacity development in agriculture, through to helping service provider businesses with stakeholder engagement, industry organisations with strategic plans, those sorts of things. So odd jobs management, but have developed now a management services company and have some plans to develop opportunities as you do for people to tap into external sources of capital.
Yep.
And to try and drive their businesses with finance outside of bank debt.
Which is exactly why we got in touch with Andrew, and mainly because I've read his newsletter, but basically we needed someone who has that all-round knowledge of the agriculture industry and farming, and also how to get investment in to pull this template together. So I am very appreciative of your work, mate, and we've got a few other plans.
Checks remains in the mail.
Oh yeah, we're going to pay him at some stage. But we will keep evolving this marketplace. We've got a few other plans and we'll talk about them in a second. But now I just want to unpack the template with you guys,
Sure.
How we're structured the way we have and why we've done it the way we have and what we expect from aspiring farmers. So in general, the structure is around three areas: around yourself as an aspiring farmer, why you're a great farmer, why this farm is a good farm, and also how you're going to farm it. So there's three sort of the broad areas we talked about.
Sure.
Andrew, so is there anything, just in summary of the template itself, that you think stands out from your point of view if you're an aspiring farmer you should get your head around?
I think, at the most basic level, if people are going to be managing the funds of somebody else, then there needs to be a demonstration that they're going to be managed competently, and that people have the skills to generate the returns for those people who are pitching the money in. It's got to be rigorous and it's got to be professional. So it's not just a matter of, oh great, a couple of $1 million to get me on my farm and away we go, and thanks very much, investor. That's nice of you. There are additional requirements that come with having a relationship like that, and there needs to be accountability. There needs to be transparency in the way you report what's going on with the farm, financially and agronomically. There needs to be, I guess, a different level of accountability to what people might be used to in a normally family farming environment.
Yeah.
So this template's about, I guess, making that case that the people can deliver that accountability and have the skills and expertise and the networks that they can tap into, and the ideas. That they're worth investing in above all the other people that you've got who are pitching for farms, and it's a competitive marketplace.
It is. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I guess the feedback we're getting from investors on this is the farm and the business is almost half of what they're looking for. Half of it is you as the aspiring farmer, and you selling yourself as someone who's competent and who can run a farm and who has the nous to sit down and pull a farm proposal together. So that you sitting down and doing this template in and of itself will be a great demonstration to these investors that you're onto it.
That's right. There's two sources of returns for investors. One's capital growth, and that's I guess, that's a function of owning land.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is the skills and the capabilities of the people managing that land. And that's where the variation comes in, and that's where I think it's important that people can demonstrate that they're at the top of the tree and the most deserving and can drive that profitability that the investors can benefit from.
That's it. And also I think we don't want people to, if you don't feel like you're ready to fill this template in or pitch a farm, I think still get used to it and still get your head around it, because this is what will be expected of you when you are, and you can use this as a bit of a guide for where you should be pushing yourself in your training. I think one of the things we'll do in the future is set up a whole, maybe an online 12-month training course just around the template and how unpack every one of those areas to ensure that you know what is going on with running a farm. I think that would be really exciting stuff.
I don't think there should be an expectation that people jump into developing a proposal, based on this template themselves. I don't think you expect that that's the case, and even the people I work with in developing investment proposals, they don't go away and pump these things out in solitude, in isolation. So, there is a process that involves getting down what you can, but also, utilising the skills of others and potentially investing a bit of money in those skills as well to get your concepts and your ideas well developed, and then be able to put that on paper and describe what they are and make the case.
That's it. I think you need to have written this proposal, so this is not about you handing completely your proposal off to somebody else who can fill it in for you. That will not fly. This is about you putting it down and being the one taking the lead on this. But obviously you will get advice in those areas you're not that strong in. You need support. But we want to emphasise that that's the point here, is for you as an aspiring farmer to do the heavy lifting. It is your farm after all, and if you can't pull the proposal together, you'd be struggling to justify how you could run the farm if you're getting someone else to write it for you. So make sure you're it, but please do get advisors in, and as Andrew says, it may require some sort of financial investment to get the right person in.
It doesn't take a lot. So someone can come in and help polish up a proposal that's been drafted and steer it in the right direction. It's not a huge amount of time or money, but it's certainly worth, I think, getting whoever you can, even if they're not professional advisors, but people with business experience and those within your networks to run their eye over it and give you a hand.
Absolutely. And
do you want to have a look at sort of practically speaking what's in there?
Let's do it. That'd be great.
Okay, all right.
Let's go.
So without going into too much detail, I mean, there's a need, I think, for people to outline their farming capabilities and experience, and that's probably the first thing that you need to communicate to a potential investor is what you've done, what you're good at, what your experience is, what skills you have, what skills you don't have. So this is a really important one. It demonstrates self-awareness about what you may need assistance with, and that you understand what that is and where to get it. Because investors don't want to invest in people that think they know everything. Because nobody does. So being aware of what you don't know and what your strengths are and where you might need a bit of help is a really important thing to communicate, because it means that you've got good business management capabilities there. Then, outlining what the proposed acquisition is. So, where the farm is, if it's not a specific farm, in general terms, what sort of farm you're looking for. What level of investment's required, where that investment's going to go. Is it in farm upgrades? Is it in diversifying the enterprises that are provided through that farming business? Remediation of soil and those sorts of things on farm. What's the cost of that farm? What's that in market terms? How does that relate to other farms that have sold in the district? How that farm at that price is going to be able to generate returns.
That's right, and I think that's a big one. Investors, and I think anyone and yourself would be looking at an investment and you think, well, why am I paying above market price? Or if I am paying above market price, how can you justify it? And that's the thing the investors are looking for is, I'm paying this price, or I think it's going to be this price, and here are the reasons why. And I think you can justify the price. It's just making sure you got that working there to explain why.
That's right. And what is your prospective farm business operation going to look like, and why is it going to drive a return that justifies purchasing this particular parcel? So what is your farm plan? What farming systems would you use? What's the mix of enterprises? What are you doing to rein in costs? How are you treating questions like acquisition of machinery versus using contractors? All those sorts of issues about how that business is going to be run to maximise your revenue and drive down your costs, and what are your plans and ideas about that? That's a really important thing to communicate to I guess justify that acquisition in the first place. That you're going to be above that level of the general market in driving profitability. Otherwise, those who are good performers will be able to outbid for that farm.
And I think this is the most interesting section of the whole proposal, in that you get to, I guess this is why people want to be farmers. They have these dreams of, I want to have this mixed enterprise, or I want to have a crops, or do cropping, or whatever. But here is where you can start to elaborate all those years of thinking and planning, and you can get it down to say, this is why I'm going to be profitable, this is why I know what I'm doing, and here's the enterprise I'm going to set up, and here's how it's going to make money. I think this is the really interesting part of the proposal.
Yeah, and there needs to be some detail about that, and what your ideas, why a particular mix of enterprises, or why a diversification strategy, or do you have an idea for going into branded product? What are the numbers around that? What's that likely to deliver for yourself and for an investor? And put some detail into it, put some rigour into it, and make that case with some well thought out ideas.
Yep, brilliant.
Also, I think it's important to communicate how you're going to report to investors. So how, in practical terms, you're going to be accountability to the people who are providing you with money.
Which is key. I think you want to have confidence your money's being spent well and continues to be spent well.
That's right. How's the financial management of the business going to be conducted? To the extent that you understand software programs for financial management, that you have a process in place to report the numbers, report the finances of the business, to report things that go wrong, things that go right, what that transparency and accountability is going to look like in a practical sense.
So where could you go for that sort of advice, Andrew? Because for a lot of people probably it's a bit of a foreign concept, but I'm assuming accountants and advisors in those areas would be the best people to go to?
Yeah, initially I think there's some good materials from GRDC out there, probably from MOA as well, I'm not so sure. But GRDC, I know, have a lot of good information about business governance. Their fact sheets that they put out. So that's a simple Google search, and that's a really good place to start. To understand how business decision making and business governance works in best practice. Have a look at those and then work out, whether you've got an accountant or another farm business advisor in your network that might be able to help. And I know that one of your plans is to try and provide people with some of those farm business advisors who can help. And this is an area in which I think people are going to need a bit of assistance if they're fresh to farming and fresh to business management.
Agree.
But if there are accountants that want to be farmers out there, then maybe this is the bit they've got under control, and it's the agronomy stuff.
That's right,
so
you never know.
It's horses for courses.
And I think it's a good point around Google, that you now have the template in front of you of all the things you need to have your head around. And so you've got a driver now for getting on YouTube or getting on GRDC website or wherever to freshen up on every one of these areas. It might be a bit of work at the start, but over time you're going to get to know this stuff inside out, and it's going to be second nature.
And it's an investment. It's an investment in people's knowledge that lasts them throughout their entire business career. So to have that discipline imposed right at the beginning of the process through your program is something that will pay dividends for people throughout, because it means that there are good. There's the right mindset, there are good practices, and there are good disciplines already in place, and it will deliver good outcomes for people.
Oh, great! And even if you're not doing farming, if you're going to some other business, I think this is just standard business practice. which is putting in a bit of a farming flavour to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we go into financial projections and assumptions, and again, you sort of there's a limited extent, I guess, when you make, and I'm trying to do the same thing in business at the moment. You make assumptions about what's going to happen in the future. Nobody really knows, but as long as you can provide some assumptions about what the financial outcomes of the business are going to be, based on assumptions that are credible and realistic, and then work through what the financial implications of those things are into the future. Because this is the discipline you're going to need at the very beginning to actually make that case that this farm can generate the sort of returns at the price it's going to cost to investors, because that's what everyone who buys a farm needs to do.
Well, that's the bottom line, isn't it? So sources for this, so we've got some aspiring farmers who are already out there leasing land and have got their own business, so they've got the numbers, which is fantastic. Could be you going and buttering up the next door neighbour or other farmers out there in the district who feel like you're confident to go talk to them and ask for their figures. Online as well.
Look at commodity, look at commodity prices, look at yield projections, realistic yield projections. Do some scenario-based projections as well. So, good, bad, average seasons, what yield looks like in those scenarios, what good, bad, average seasons for commodity prices might look like. Put the two worst case scenarios together, have one good, one bad, two good, on price and production, and I guess run as many of those scenarios as you can, and work out what the sensitivity of the business is to price or production having a rough year, and I guess try and convey to the investor that you understand cash flow and that you understand risk management in those poor years, and also that you've got a sense of how the business might take the opportunities, as we've seen in the last couple of years, of a combination of high prices and strong production, and put those projections out there and make your case on that basis. I guess the question that everyone's going to have is what's the specific investment proposition? So what sort of vehicle are these investors, when they invest in you, what are they investing in? Are they getting is it a share farming arrangement? Is it profit share? Are there leases involved? Sort of what's the combination of ownership and management and return that you're talking about?
And I love the idea that we're sort of opening this up to you guys, to whatever you think is the best option. I think some people are just thinking, there's only one way to set up farm arrangements in dairy. It's usually share farming, but there could be any combination of ways we can set this up.
Well, you've got leases with first option to buy at the end of that lease period, and that's, I guess, a mechanism to split the benefit of capital growth. You've got a lease which provides some certainty to the investor about returns year on year, and also is a way of balancing production risk based on how low or high that lease is. It's pretty hard for farmers to go in and be paying 5% year on year, but by the same token, investors want a return, and if the lease is at a level which manages that production risk for the farmer, then there might be a profit share arrangement, and you'll need to I guess talk to people who might be interested in making that investment, talking to you, Sam, talking to other advisors about how you mix that risk across investor and farmer, and what sort of models do generate a mix of risk that everyone's comfortable with and provides a share of profits and capital growth to everybody, so it's a fair outcome.
And also I want to encourage you guys to think about what it is you want. This is just the first stage of an investment proposal, so we assume that you'll put a proposal up, an investor or investors might love it, and then they'll say, let's catch up around the kitchen table and really unpack this, and it might be a completely different ownership model at the end of the day. But the main thing is we're using this as a bit of a summary of the whole template, we're using this to get to in front of the investors to have that discussion. This isn't about investors will sign up straight away based on your pitch. It's, hey, these guys are very clever. This farm looks really good. I've got a few suggestions as an investor. Let's catch up and over the next few months we'll refine it and keep kicking it around. But the main point here is that you are thinking through what you want for your investment opportunity.
Yeah, but put something out there. It's a negotiable. You know, there's going to be an agreement at the end of this for some farmers, and it's to be negotiated. But the fact that you've thought through the implications of different models and come up with an idea that you think will work best for everyone demonstrates to the investor that you've got the capability to run a business, and that you understand about, you know, risk management and who should bear that risk and who should reap the benefits from that arrangement. The other thing I think that's really important to do is have an exit strategy.
Yep, absolutely.
Investors are going to want to know how they get out of it, over what time period they get out of it, over what circumstances, and think about how those exit strategies are going to work.
And even the other way around. So investors want to know that this farmer, if you're not performing, how could they replace you potentially? Like, I think this is about this is a business deal, and there's two parties here, and both need to know the ways to get out. Or you, as a farmer, might want to get away from these investors for some reason, whatever it is. But that's got to be clear from the start how to get out of this arrangement.
And I think when there's that level of understanding about at what points those arrangements might be triggered, then it gives everyone a little bit more comfort that there's not going to be anything unpredictable come along, apart from the weather and prices.
That's it.
Yep. So, and I guess the final thing that's here in the template is a discussion about risk management, and that you know, that you've got a bit of a handle on all those different risk factors within a farm business and how they might be managed. Everything from occupational health and safety to weather to commodity prices and you know, staff walking off or having babies or all that sort of stuff that can be disruptive to the business.
And again, this is I guess a thorough in terms of, we want you to think about as many as you can, but you don't have to do an essay on each of those. Right. It's to understand that you know what's going on in the business. Here are the things that you think are going to pop up. And again, when you go to the next stage with the investors, that's when you really unpack these risks and understand them even more. So that all sounds to me great. Like I hope that you guys are excited by this. I hope you're also thinking this is going to be a bit of work, because it is. It's you're probably thinking 40, 50 hours of you sitting at a laptop and also calling people up, Googling, etc. We expect you're putting this time in, and I think it's absolutely reasonable that you're putting this time in, because this is your dream, this is your life, this is what you want, and as we always say, it's about how much you want it, and we're giving you now the template to do it. We're not saying it's easy. You're going to have some certain levels of skills. It's going to take you time, but if you really want this and you really want your farm, we think this is really exciting for you guys to sit down and we've got the pathway to make it happen.
Well, you're running a merit-based process, Sam, so this is you need to be at the top of that list of people.
Absolutely.
To do it.
And also you're competing against the next door neighbour who's buying the property or corporate farm. So we're trying to get you guys up to the skill level that you can walk into an open market and go buy the farm. So you're going to have to put a bit of work in to get you there. But and the other point I guess I want to re-emphasise is that this is about getting conversations going. So you are to pull together a proposal which is what you hope to see on this farm. But until you sit down with an investor who's keen to back you, things might change, which I think is fine. And that's, again, just a discussion. But really, you could see this as an introductory method or a way to introduce you to those people who can help you onto your farm. And that's where you go into the full detail of even a more thorough due diligence process.
Yeah, don't be put off. It's like an elephant, one chunk at a time. You eat those things.
That's
so
it.
This is the same thing, just one chunk at a time.
Agree. And then you might have a few elephants. So I think you'll pitch once, it may not work, but then you've got, I reckon, half of this template you can use again when you're talking about yourself, talking about the type of farm you want to operate. There's stuff you can reuse when you pitch again. So I'd treat this as pitch once, have a crack at it, see how it goes, get some feedback. But have your eye on maybe the third or fourth farm is probably the one that you end up getting, because you'll learn and get better at it, and you'll have an irresistible investment opportunity by that time.
Great.
Andrew, thank you. Thank you
No
for your
worries.
efforts.
Yeah.
We are really excited to see where this marketplace goes. This is what aspiring farmers have been wanting. We've taken 3 years to figure out that this is it. To have your support to help us pull this together and take it to the next level.
Very happy to be involved. Like I've always said about your business, Sam, I think your exposure is valuable for others who are involved. So that's the way I'm treating it. I think you've been very good at marketing what you're doing and getting the interest. And you know, I'm very, very happy to be involved. I think it'll be good for everyone who gets on board.
Well, thank you, Andrew. And get writing, guys. Get out there, get in contact if you've got any questions. But get on to Andrew. He wrote it. He'll be able to help you as well. But get in there, start typing, and let's make your farming dreams a reality. Cheers, guys.